Today on Christian World News, President Bush fights for his plan to salvage Iraq. Meanwhile, Iraq's Christian community fights for survival.
Plus, putting his life on the line, this man dedicated himself to spreading God's word, and he nearly paid a very high price.
And then to Japan. More young people are having Christian weddings and enjoying gospel music. But does that mean a spiritual revival is on the horizon? We begin in Washington, where the Bush administration and Congress are engaged in a high-stakes battle over the president's new Iraq strategy. The future of that country's Christian community may depend on that outcome. Hello, everyone. I'm George Thomas.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. And, George, I want to welcome you back from your travels around the globe. Great stories, my brother.
Thank you.
It's good to have you back.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
At least for a little while.
Thanks.
Well, the president's advisors have been on Capitol Hill this week trying to convince the skeptical Democratic Congress to back his plan. It calls for more than 20,000 additional U.S. troops whose mission is to clear territories of insurgents and to keep them clear as the communities rebuild. Democrats are critical of the president's new strategy, suggesting that it's too little too late. Frederick Kagan of the American Enterprise Institute helped craft the plan. This week on the 700 Club, he warned of the consequences of a U.S. pullout from Iraq.
We would find ourselves, if we were defeated here, drawn in repeatedly again and again back to the scene of our defeat. It will embolden our enemies around the world. It will lead quite possibly to regional conflict and a regional maelstrom, and we really have to avoid that at all costs. It's in our vital national interest to do that.
And the truth of the matter is that the U.S. defeat in Iraq may have a devastating impact on that country's minority Christian community.
Iraq's Christians are under increasing attack, and many are fleeing the country. Some observers fear that a group that has survived nearly 2,000 years now faces possible extinction. Look into these faces and see one of the world's oldest Christian communities searching for hope in the midst of desolation. Iraq's Christians are wounded, killed, and grieving in the violence that's shaking their country. But this isn't just fallout from the fighting between Shia and Sunni Muslims. Christians in Iraq are deliberately targeted. More than 15 churches have been attacked since the fall of Saddam in 2003. And hundreds of Christians have been killed. The past 6 months alone, 7 priests have been kidnapped and 2 of them murdered.
It is too dangerous for Christians in Baghdad. We didn't go to church because we were afraid they would blow it up.
To understand the significance, you must look at the history. The bloodlines of about 70% of Iraq's 750,000 Christians reach back to the Chaldeans or Assyrians, prominent peoples in the Old Testament. Their ancestors began worshiping in Iraq more than 500 years before the birth of Muhammad and Islam. Many Assyrian Christians still speak and worship in Aramaic, the ancient language of Jesus. But today, fear is widespread throughout the traditional Iraqi church. Even in northern Iraq, churches are on edge. In a quiet suburb in the city of Kirkuk, Bashir Samir Sawa is at home with her husband and daughter. That's where they spend almost all of their time these days. She says fear of kidnap or attack has turned their home into a prison.
We cannot go to church for prayers or even go shopping. We fear to do anything. Honestly, we are oppressed here.
This Assyrian church in Kirkuk stands as a symbol of the community's past glory. But the present state of affairs is deeply troubling for the city's Assyrian Archbishop, Louis Sacco.
Many Christians have been kidnapped or also beheaded, and one priest. We are feeling bad, we are upset because Iraqis are killed. And now we are looking forward for a new Iraq, a new country who each one of us can live with dignity and freedom.
Tens of thousands of Assyrians and Chaldeans have fled to neighboring countries such as Syria and Jordan. Dr. Donnie George was director of the National Museum in Baghdad until he felt compelled to leave Iraq last year. Prompted, he says, by death threats from Muslim extremists. He believes that unless the international community intervenes, Christian life in Iraq faces extinction.
There will be no Christians in Iraq. There will be no Assyrians in Iraq. And this is an awful thing, you know, just a country where the original people from that country are driven away.
Michael Yoash is director of the Iraq Sustainable Democracy Project. He is also an Assyrian Christian and an advocate for Christians in Iraq. Michael, let me begin with this question. Why is the suffering of Iraq's Christians being ignored?
We don't fully understand why it's being ignored, because this community is so critical to the Iraqi political fabric. They are the indigenous people of Iraq, the Assyrian Christians. They also represent Iraq's religious diversity. This was a people that were missionaries that in their day reached Asia. And so they provide an ancient history and a religious Christian history to Iraq's religious fabric. We don't really understand why they're being ignored. And today they also represent Iraq's human capital. They're disproportionately part of Iraq's educated elite, professional elite, and their flight from Iraq, their refugee exodus from Iraq in this fighting is really going to set Iraq back generations.
And Michael, the truth of the matter is that Iraq's constitution has a very special provision in its constitution protecting minorities like the Christians.
You're absolutely right. Article 125 of Iraq's constitution allows for the creation of an administrative area for these people and other minorities. And indeed, Assyrian Christian political groups, civic groups, and communities, and us here in Washington are working hard and fast to make sure that that constitutional right is realized, to create an administrative area, perhaps a province, for these people so that they can remain part of Iraq but stay safe, protect their religion, protect their identity, and play a meaningful role in Iraq's development and future.
Michael, what is it going to take to create this administrative area that you're talking about? Well, I mean, what's standing in the way?
Well, of course, the critical part is what's happening in Iraq today. Amidst this fighting, amidst the chaos, it is very difficult to have this issue come to the forefront. Of course, it is being pushed politically in Iraq. There are political groups, political leaders that are actively pursuing this agenda. It's been a declared position by Iraqi political groups since October 2003. And of course, we're here as Iraq Sustainable Democracy Project, other groups, other American-based Assyrian, Chaldean, Syriac associations that are all part of this community advocating for this issue.
Michael, just a few more seconds. The President of the United States made a very big speech on Iraq this week. Do you take anything positive from his speech?
I take the overall tone that we are committed to Iraq, committed to staying there, as being positive, because an American withdrawal could spell or will spell disaster for the Christian Assyrians.
Michael Yoash from Washington, D.C., thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome.